This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to take a look at the Asus Transformer Pad TF300. That's this guy right here, and its companion dock. This is the latest in the Transformer series, and it's a more affordable version of the Prime, but you know, they fixed a lot of stuff that was wrong with the Prime, so in that way, maybe it's even better, even though it's cheaper. We're going to find out. So this is the Asus Transformer Pad TF300. No more E in there, and no Prime in the name here because, well, it's not the Prime. It's not the fancy one with the metal back and the super IPS display and the slightly larger battery. So if you're wondering what you're giving up for that $100 less, because this guy is $399 for a 32 gig versus $499 for the 32 gig Transformer Prime TF201, those are the major differences about what you're giving up there. As you might guess, since it's called a Transformer, there's an optional $149 keyboard dock. And it comes in matching colors, and here we have it right here. Now this is the blue Transformer and dock, and it's going to be available in red and in white in June, Asus says, but right now blue is all that you get. But it's a nice blue. It's a kind of a blackish blue. It's not in-your-face bright blue or anything like that. It's certainly not Nokia Lumia Cyan. What you've got here is pretty much standard stuff for an Android tablet and a whole lot like the Asus ePad Transformer Prime. It's a 10.1-inch IPS display. It's capable of a maximum of 350 nits of brightness, which is pretty darn bright for a tablet. That's good. It doesn't do IPS Plus, which is that 600 nits of brightness the Prime can do for those of you who need to use the tablet outdoors and really see things clearly. But for indoor use, this is quite bright. Now, I know some reviewers claimed it was kind of dim, and honestly, even side by side with my own Prime, which I tend to run in IPS, not IPS Plus mode, since IPS Plus is retina burning bright for indoor use and kills the battery, they're really pretty similar. One thing that they might be noticing, I'll show you here, is you can get quite dark if you want. Right now we're pretty much at maximum brightness for good exposure in this video. Normally I wouldn't actually run it at max brightness. It would be a little too bright, but if you bring it down, it can get incredibly dim. And here we have it about 3/4 brightness, and you can see that the camera, which is recording at 60 fps, can pick this up. That means they're cycling at the same refresh rate. But we bring it all the way up, that goes away. But anyway, you can see that's one thing. You're definitely not going to want to run this on low brightness unless you're reading in dark in bed or something like that, because for some reason it can get really, really low. Maybe to help you stretch that battery life out, though battery life on this so far has been fine. This runs on the quad-core Tegra 3 CPU plus that 5th companion core, so technically 5 cores. And that companion core is a low power core to handle background tasks so your battery doesn't get eaten up. Now this is a slightly lower clock speed version of the Tegra 3 that's used in the Transformer Prime, and it's the T30L CPU for those of you who follow CPUs, but honestly in benchmarks we're looking at just about the same scores, and in terms of things like 3D gaming with Tegra Zone games, stuff like that, it runs just as well, so there's really no perceivable difference, to be honest. Probably because at this point, rarely is an Android tablet CPU bound, really. There are other things that may be slowing it down, but not the CPU, so we've got more than enough power to power anything that you want to do with the tablet, and it's pretty future-proof too. We have a gig of DDR3 RAM. Interestingly, in benchmarks, like in Quadrant, we didn't see any improvement in memory scores, however. And speaking of memory and actually access to internal storage, at 32 gigs of internal storage, the infamous please wait or close dialogues that you see in the web browser and some places like the Google Play Market. So far I haven't seen that in the web browser. I did get that in Google Play Market. While I was busy installing another application and I hit download for an additional application, it seemed like it was getting a little bit bottlenecked there for I/O to the storage. Not really sure why that is, but so far at least, like I said, we haven't seen it in the web browser, and that's something that has been driving me crazy with my own personal Transformer Prime TF201. The tablet has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and a GPS, and guess what? They all work! Yee-hoo! Yes, they do! And just to prove to you that the GPS works, we are indoors, obviously, but we're fairly close to a window, but we're still indoors, and we have turned Wi-Fi off. Let's take a look here. Wi-Fi, see, not even turned on. Though this won't help with something like GPS status and GPS toolbox applications anyway, even if you had Wi-Fi on. And now we'll launch GPS status and see how it does. And right down here we should see satellites coming into view. It's working on getting it fixed. You can see it doesn't know where we are or anything like that yet. So here we are. You can see we've got 11 of 11 satellites indoors and an error of only 8 meters. So that's pretty good. Now, that took about 25 seconds to get this fixed indoors with Wi-Fi off. With Wi-Fi on, it does it in about 10 seconds. Then we also tested Wi-Fi using Wi-Fi Analyzer here, and we found that it certainly had a stronger signal than our Transformer Prime. And after doing the squeezy prime thing to my prime and squeezing the contact area in the upper bezel, actually the Wi-Fi has been pretty good, but this is certainly on par with the Acer Iconia Tab A510. In fact, it might even be a little bit better in terms of picking up a signal from a distance. In terms of throughput speed, we have 25 megabit up and down FiOS service, and that's what we got in our tests, up to 25 feet away from the router, whereas the Acer actually got a little bit higher than that, but we're at least seeing the subscribed speed on this device, and that's better than the Prime. And again, we'll also be doing smackdown comparisons between the Asus Transformer TF300 and the Prime, and also the Acer Iconia Tab A510, all Tegra 3 quad-core tablets that are currently available now. Let's take a look around the device, because some things have stayed the same and some things have changed. Now, the overall design philosophy is the same. The biggest difference you're going to notice is this is a plastic back right here. This is why you can actually get Wi-Fi and GPS apparently, so we'll go with that. That's okay. It may not have that beautiful, sexy thing that kind of really competed well with the iPad too, like the Prime, but hey, it works. And they've done a swirl finish here. It's actually an embossed pattern on this to kind of match the original Prime. Stereo speakers are still here right side by side for a complete lack of any stereo separation, but the opening is a bit bigger now, and the sound volume is actually pretty good on this guy. Got your headphone jack over here, and we still have that bevel thing going on here that we saw on the original Prime, but it's a little less severe. It's not quite as beveled or tapered, so that's good. You get a little bit more support for some of your jacks. Now the headphone jack is still fairly exposed. You can see it actually cuts into the back there, so you're going to want to be careful with your headphones or headphone combo mic. But the rest of the ports are a bit more secure. Here's the docking port right here, which has been a sore point for Asus. And there's, again, less taper there, so it's a bit less exposed, more supported, however you want to put it. We still have the locator tabs here for the keyboard dock. No rubber plugs come pre-installed, which, well, so you get these nice big ugly holes here. If you're never going to use a keyboard, you might be bummed at that, but then again, a lot of people apparently could never figure out to take the rubber plugs off to plug in the keyboard, so maybe it helps with user confusion. For serial number stuff, we still have just little plastic stickers put on here, and that means if you ever want to return this or get this service, do not peel those off, because some retailers get very cranky if the serial number is not on there, even if it is only a basic decal. Right here is your micro SD card slot, and as you can see, it doesn't stick out. It's not prone. I can tap on it to all heck. It doesn't pop out. Good times compared to the Prime. Your micro HDMI port, they've tightened this up a lot. It's not wiggly, it's not loose. Again, it's more supported because the bevel is not so pronounced anymore. And also, yay, HDMI out actually works to a variety of TVs and AV receivers with a couple of different cables that have been giving us trouble with the Prime. It works. We even get 5.1 audio out through our Sony AV receiver, so yet another improvement there. Your volume controls are over here. And this is your power button, which is still kind of teeny, but it's actually easier to operate versus the original Prime. You have your 8 megapixel camera on the back here. There is no flash, and there's a 1.2 megapixel camera up front. Image quality is about like the Prime, which is to say, not bad. You know, honestly, very few tablets take really compelling shots, and I've never been that excited by the photos that the Prime takes, or this, but certainly is better than nothing. I can shoot 1080p video. And here's the $149 keyboard dock, which gives you obviously a keyboard, a trackpad, and there's an additional internal battery, which, like all Transformers, charges up the battery in the tablet itself. An interesting way of doing it. So this guy acts like an auxiliary charger, an external charger battery pack for your tablet. 10.1-inch tablet, so you've got basically a small netbook-sized keyboard here. Those of you with large hands will probably find it cramped. Those of you who have long skinny fingers will probably think it's not too bad. You got a trackpad here that actually works really well. It's better than some Windows notebooks I've used, and a big old chromy clicky click pad here now. No more buttonless trackpad design like we saw on the Prime dock. This is where you stick the tablet in, and you can see the two locator tabs in here, and that's your dock connector in there. And this is the latch that releases it. When you stick the tablet in, it makes a nice reassuring click that makes it think it's really locked in there, but Asus still warns you, don't pick the thing up by the tablet itself. And they're right, because actually I just moved this. I had them both together as a sandwich on a table, and guess what? The tablet came kind of loose, and that caused it to reboot, so watch out for that. Back is plastic that shows fingerprints, as you can see here. Smooth finish, nothing too exciting going on there. Little rubber feet to stop it from sliding around on the table. And this hinge here is very stiff, just like on the Prime keyboard dock. And speaking of the Prime keyboard dock, these guys are not interchangeable according to Asus. Now, we did try stuffing our TF300 transformer pad into our Prime's dock, and it's a really tight fit because the TF300 is thicker, so I wouldn't want to risk cracking that display, especially because it's not Gorilla Glass. The Prime gets Gorilla Glass, the TF300 does not. And now let's insert them in together, and there's a little arrow on the tablet and a little arrow on the keyboard dock to help you figure out exactly where you're supposed to be positioning it. Just get it lined up like so, and then push down until it clicks. And it plays a little nice elevator sound there, the same sound it does when it's charging. That's because it's immediately going to start charging off the battery that's in this keyboard dock right here. And now you also get battery status for both the dock and the tablet right here, so you don't need a special widget or anything like that to see the battery status of both of those. And it looks pretty nice when it's closed, just like the Prime did too. A little bit stranger than your average notebook or netbook because you have this big old lens here and you've got the speaker grill showing, but other than that it's pretty nice, pretty compact. And it's still fairly lightweight. This tablet weighs 1.4 pounds versus 1.29 for the Prime, so you're not adding all that much weight on. And again, it is just ever so slightly thicker, but as Android tablets go, this guy is still pretty slim and pretty light. The dock also gets you an SD card slot here. It comes with a dummy in here, and that's a full-size SD card slot, as you can see from the full-size blank that's in there. That's pretty much been standard for transformers all along. And here we have the USB port under a little covered door. Full-size USB host port. That means you can use USB peripherals as long as drivers are available. And Android has drivers for keyboards, for mice, for flash drives, for hard drives. Asus adds NTFS support, not quite as advanced as Acer's, but still not bad. And you can use USB game controllers, and Asus also has a USB Ethernet adapter driver. So if you have one of those USB to Ethernet dongle adapters, like for the MacBook Air or the ZenBook, works with this guy, so you can actually use wired Ethernet. And on this side over here, this is where you would plug in your tablet's charger to charge the dock. By the way, if you don't want to buy the keyboard dock just to get that USB host feature, there is this little not so easy to find adapter that Asus makes. It's 19 bucks, plugs into the dock connector, and right here you get a full-size USB port, so there's yet another way to use USB peripherals with this without having to buy the dock. And here we have the TF300 here on this side, and we've got the Transformer Prime TF201 in this hand, so you can see them side by side, pretty much identical. And if we look at them sideways, you can see it's really even hard to tell that the TF300 is a little bit thicker, but it is. And the big difference is going to be in the backs. You have genuine swirled plastic and genuine swirled metal on the Prime. And then there's that little bit of weight difference. Tablet runs Android OS 4.03 Ice Cream Sandwich. That's the latest and greatest version of the operating system. And this is a retail purchase version. The first thing that happened after we opened it up and powered it on and connected it to Wi-Fi is it gave itself a little firmware update. I guess there's already some bug fixes going on there. In terms of UI, this is pretty much like you've seen in every Asus Transformer model. They have a couple of value-added applications, some which I really like. Other than that, they really don't change the UI of the operating system at all, which seems to be what Google wants when it comes to Ice Cream Sandwich. It's quick, it's responsive. We've got Asus's little task manager, which has tended to crash for us on a prior model, but so far has been stable. The usual weather widget. And your standard interface here for your applications. This is all the stuff that we've got loaded up, and if you want to switch to widget view, you just tap over there, and you can tap and hold any widget you want and drag it to any one of the home screens. And mostly these are standard Google widgets. In terms of applications, we don't get the demo 3D games that we got on the Prime, but other than that, you get pretty much all the same applications. You get Polaris Office, I'll show you that, and that can not just view, it can also edit and create documents for MS Office compatible files. Kind of a basic interface it starts out with here. Exciting file listing, so we can do a new file or we can open up an existing file. We've got Supernote, which is a pretty neat application that Asus developed. And you can see here, you can do notes with drawing with your finger or with the capacitive stylus, and you can also type on the screen as well. So it's kind of a rich note-taking application that's pretty neat, and you can embed photos and stuff like that into it as well. And you've got the usual Asus MyCloud, MyNet stuff, their ebook reader, which is, it's okay, but well, it's there, and press reader. And you can see that we still have SplashTop. They've changed the remote here for SplashTop. That's a remote desktop access stuff that works with PC and Macs, but it indeed is still here. And it has DLNA support too through Asus applications. Beyond that, you've got all the standard Google applications, YouTube, Gmail, email, all that good stuff, the Android web browser. And we're loading up our own website now to see a YouTube embedded video with Adobe Flash Player, and this is of the Acer Iconia A510 tablet. And we actually plug this into the TV, and like I was saying, HDMI out works great when we have MPEG-4, H.264 clips, high profile, 1080p, all that kind of thing. But YouTube, when we went full screen, kind of baffled it. We just got black screens on both devices, so that's a little iffy. If it's playing in a window, it's fine. If it's using the built-in YouTube player, it works. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Acer Iconia Tab A510. Yet another long-named tablet, but this one's actually pretty cool. It's fairly reasonably priced, as you expect from Acer. It's $449 for the 32 gig quad-core CPU, or technically 5-core CPU, because it has a companion core in it. And it's actually a really nice tablet for the money. There it is. YouTube working in full screen using Adobe Flash Player. And you hear the speakers, right? These are pretty loud. This is only about 2/3 of the way up for volume. And now we'll check out some movie trailers, again 1080p stuff. And by the way, the mass storage drivers that Android and Asus supply, if you plug in an SD card, you're going to have a little X symbol right here, and you can access Asus's built-in basic file manager. And the same thing if you plug in a USB hard drive, self-powered, and even NTFS share. But I noticed that third-party file managers do not work to see those things. You actually have to use the Asus file manager, and same thing with the Prime. We can switch to see what's on our micro SD card, internal storage, and so on. But everything integrates into Gallery. Now if you're plugging in a hard drive that has 50 movies on, a whole lot of songs, give it some time to actually index the Gallery application, that is. Now we'll test out this movie trailer.
My dear Frodo, you asked me once if I had told you everything.
And for some reason we can see that 60-cycle refresh with our camera right now, where we couldn't on the desktop, but you cannot see that with the naked eye.
All of it.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Plays fine, and this is a 5.1 file. It's not baffling at all. And again, if you plug this into an AV receiver, you will get 5.1 audio out to your speakers.
Allow me to introduce Philly, Kitty, or Lauren.
It's always nice when things just work. This has a 22 watt per hour battery inside versus the 25 in the Prime and versus the 36 in the Acer Iconia Tab A510. So you can guess who has the shortest battery life. It's this guy right here. But it's not that short either. Things are not that bad. We're still running our battery tests on this, but it looks like you should get about 7.5 hours of use with this, with a mix of tasks with Wi-Fi on, web browsing, some video clip playback, checking your email, that kind of thing. Obviously, if you add on the keyboard dock, you're adding an additional battery capacity, and while Asus claims up to 15 hours of battery life, that's pretty darn optimistic. Probably you're looking at more like 11. Since this has a Tegra 3, you can play Tegra Zone games and THD games, and it's more than capable. We're going to test out Riptide GP now, so you can see the added effects, the water splashing and stuff like that that you get because this has the Tegra 3 with the fancier graphics. Plays just fine. Nice water detail. Accelerometer obviously works just fine. It's a very sensitive accelerometer. So there's a Riptide GP on the Asus Transformer Pad TF300. So that's the Asus Transformer Pad TF300. It's just becoming available now, probably in another couple of days here. We're in the third week of April. It should start showing up in stores. It's $399 for the 32 gig model and $379 for the 16 gig. Now, in your right mind, why would you get the 16 gig just to save 20 bucks, right? They're probably just offering that so they can show up as the lowest price listing under Android tablet listings on retailers' websites or something like that. So get the 32 gig. And probably that's where you're going to find in stores more often anyway. It's a nice Android tablet. Its big selling point really is that everything works compared to the Prime. Now, I own the Prime. I like my Prime, but we all know that it's had its problems with Wi-Fi, GPS, a couple of other things, and everything has been remedied here. The unfortunate thing is, for those of you who want the higher end model, that really thin aesthetic, a metal back, that kind of stuff, you're not going to get that here. This is just your everyday plastic tablet, but it's a nice looking tablet. It's fairly thin, it's got nice curves to it. The texture on the back helps a little bit with gripability, not as grippy as the Acer Iconia Tab A510, but it helps. And of course, for those of you who really like that keyboard dock option that want to turn this into a mini netbook of sorts, you've got that for $149. And yeah, once again, you're going to go out and buy a new dock, because I wouldn't risk trying to squeeze this into the older TF201 dock. And you also get the matching colors. There'll be blue docks, red docks, and white docks to match the white, red, and blue tablets that it's available in. We've got all the standard features you'd want in your more power user-oriented tablet. Besides that Tegra 3 quad-core CPU with GeForce graphics, you've got USB host feature, you've got a micro SD card slot, and micro HDMI out. It's capable, it's fast. So far, it seems to be fairly stable, and I haven't seen too much of the wait or force close kind of error messages. We'll keep an eye on that for our full written review. But so far, things are looking pretty good for this tablet. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Don't forget to visit our website to read the full review of the Asus Transformer Pad TF300 and subscribe to our YouTube channel.